Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin'. Today we bring you another double feature of frights. When a boy moves into his deceased uncle's house, he discovers a dark presence lurking in the basement. And some people will do anything to stay young and beautiful, others will do even more. So without further ado, these are Horror Retrospective and Queenie Todd's reviews of The Tale of the Dark Music and The Tale of Many Faces.
The Tale of the Dark Music from Nickelodeon's popular kids TV show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? This particular episode comes from Season 1, Episode 11, and aired originally on the auspicious date of October 31st, 1992. So let's just get right into this, shall we? Andy Carr's mother, formerly known as Mrs. Carr, according to the credits at least, because we never learned this poor woman's full name, she inherits a home from a wealthy uncle she didn't know too well, a kooky old man who lived alone and rarely left his home. It isn't too long before Andy runs into the strange goings-on in the basement. There's an odd door which opens in response to music and reveals a creature with glowing red eyes. The thing that strikes me is not the fact that the creature greets the young boy by saying, "Hello, Andy, come on in." The thing that really bothers me is that it obviously has been listening to the family upstairs and it knows this boy's name. Even worse than that is the fact that all of this may have been by design. Think about it. The family inherits a home from a wealthy uncle that no one seems to know too much about, and there's a monster in the basement closet. Did the old man die of natural causes, or was it from fear? Okay, so getting back on topic. After the kid runs into that thing in the basement, he gets the bright idea to sick the cryptid on the neighborhood bully by locking him in the basement with music coming from 2 large speakers. Because Andy is a bright kid, and he realized early on that music summons the demon. He planned on using this dirty trick in scaring Coda, the neighborhood bully, into leaving him alone. And honestly, who hasn't ever wanted to get even with a bully? You'd do it too if you had a monster, right? Instead, what Andy winds up with is a shiny new bike and a missing kid. Way better than getting even with a bully. He made him disappear. Now we realize how this kooky uncle got rich. But how did this particular family inherit the house? Did the monster rig it after the old man died? I mean, a monster's gotta eat too, right? So to me, the interesting thing here is the bad kid's name, Coda, a name that means ally or friend. Why does this make me so curious? I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what. When the closet demon first appears to Andy, there's a glowing red light coming through the doorway. After he feeds that kid to the beast, it appears with a blue glowing light. And no, this isn't a fashionable monster that likes to color coordinate. Blue is a color which represents loyalty, and it asks Andy if they are now friends. Think about it! Regardless, I thought this was a great story. It holds the interest and leaves the viewer with questions long after the episode is over. There's great tension, and it's safe viewing for a younger audience. If that isn't enough to convince you to watch or rewatch this episode, nostalgia! Come on guys, who doesn't enjoy revisiting shows or episodes from their childhood? I know I do. Heck, have a sit down and watch this with your kids. This episode is something that everyone can enjoy, and it won't keep the kiddos up at night. Or will it?
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, I call this story The Tale of Many Faces.
Is it my turn to tell a tale by the fire? When little Queenie was growing up, around maybe 8 to 10 years old, we used to sit by the TV and love watching this show and Goosebumps and just all of these kinds of young adult horror related things, you know? They were like baby steps towards horror. But by then, I had already watched some pretty scary stuff, like some really scary shit. Like, I think I probably saw things like Critters by then and other weird movies, because once my mom figured out I had a thing for horror, she was more than willing to have me sit down and watch anything horror with her. Watching this show was tame, but I liked that it was tame. There was something sweet about it. There was something innocent. There was always a happy ending. And Okay, maybe now I'm not into a happy ending just as much, but I appreciated it back then. Back when you were young and you wanted to believe that things could get better. That you could go into these scary situations where terrible things happen to you. But if you just use your wits and your cunning, you can get out of it and tell a good story later. That's what I think Are You Afraid of the Dark was really about. All these kids kind of overcoming things in different ways and using storytelling to kind of share that. Oh, I used to love this show. This episode in particular, though, this one hits me kind of personally because I was a theater kid. I was a theater kid, I was a music-loving kid, like I wanted to be a singer, I wrote my own plays. Guys, I did everything. I was way overachieving, it was just ridiculous. This show kind of, especially this episode, really hit home in that area where I felt like a bit of a perfectionist, where I try too hard and lose myself in it, right? And this episode is about that. It's about losing your identity to your craft, losing yourself to being the best thing you want to be. And the lady in this episode, the Madame, she is a real interesting and vicious little shapeshifter. Now, I love different kinds of shapeshifters. I am very much into werewolves, but I like these kind of shapeshifters for the creep factor, the ones that take your identity, they take like an essence from you and then try to mimic that essence. You know, things like changelings that are here to like represent your stolen identity. You know, your kid goes off into the forest and this thing comes back that looks like you. There's a lot of that imagery in this, lots of masks. And you guys know, I love masks. I wear masks physically, I paint my face sometimes, like I am into transformation, I'm into shape changing. There's something magical about it for me, you know? Like simple parts of your outfit can really change and modify how you feel about yourself. And this episode is all about that, like you sell yourself to the madam. She's like tries to woo you and seduce you, and she has this powder. And if you put this powder on your face, you'll be twice as beautiful as you've ever been. And it's all about beauty, and it's all about what we do as women for beauty. There's a lot of feminist undertones in this, and I don't mind that because I think as kids and a young girl that I was, you know, I needed that kind of imagery that made me think about things like, what do I want to be? Do I care more about who I am inside or what I look like? And you can like both. You can have an aesthetic. You can, you know, this is my aesthetic. This is how I normally dress. I mean, except for when I'm feeling really sick and I'm in my jammies, but you know. But the concept of feminine beauty and what the price is for feminine beauty and like what people would consider beautiful and why, like there's a lot of subtle undertones in this little episode that are very interesting thoughts to think about as young kids. We're not even fully adults yet, but we're still dealing with concepts that are very adult in this show. And it's important because you don't want to talk down to kids. You want kids to think that they can overcome things, but you don't want them to feel like it was half-assed. You gotta work at it, you gotta learn the lesson. And the lesson in this one is multi-layered. Really love that. Masks are creepy in it because they're all like kind of just these blank doll-like expressions. And I personally have a huge mask collection. This is one of many of my favorite masks. I got this one probably like my first year living in the States. So that was a special mask. It's full of love and death, but mostly death. And I have like a huge mask collection. I think the symbolism of masks are very important, especially for me personally. You know, some of the ways I do magic, I use masks. And the uncanny valley part of masks, you know, like I love that. It's creepy as hell, it gets under my skin. That's the kind of horror fan I am. If it gets under my skin, you get points. So this was an episode that got under my skin, and it talked to the theater kid in me. And it also talked about this woman, this madam who steals people's faces because she can't make peace with herself and what she is. And they get her in the end, and that's great. I kind of love that when you see the tables turn. So yeah, it's a great episode. It's got vampiric undertones to it too, because she like enslaves all these girls, like there's so many of them because she has all their faces. And then there's like this punishment book, and it's just like, wow. There's layers to this, guys. There's layers. Check it out if you haven't seen it already. I would highly recommend it. I give it many masks out of many. Well, I guess that ends my submission to the Midnight Society. Thank you, Dice, for having me here, and I'll see you later, kids. Whoa.
So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like to let me and everyone else involved know. Don't forget to check out Horror Retrospective and Queenie Todd. You can support the channel through my Patreon, where you also get early access to videos like this. Also, don't forget to share this video to help the channels grow, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you later.